Hey guys, it's Ray. I wanted to talk about something that bothers me. I call it the pathology of the pathological, and pathology has to do with the disease, so you kind of understand where I'm going with this. But it has to do with how pathological white people are to the point to where they believe their own lies and they believe the lies of their family and friends. Many people will come to people like me who don't even consider white feelings at all because there's no reason to tell someone who has been raped that they need to watch how they talk about the rape because they might upset men, and not all men are rapists. But a lot of people will talk to us and claim that had we actually spoken a different way or more nicely, maybe they would listen. Just maybe our point would get across. And that could not be further from the truth. And that's proven in history and even today when you go to, like, the girl off of MTV, I don't remember her name, but she talks about racism constantly, and she's like so peppy and happy and all that stuff. And still, people are calling her racist and the problem with the world and all this other bullshit that they say to me. And we couldn't be more different. However, since they love mentioning Martin Luther King and, that bullshit that they do, I figured, why not quote MLK? For instance, my very first quote of MLK will be basically what I'm talking about. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Pretending that color doesn't matter. I don't see color. I judge people based on the character, as if that white man or woman would be put in a room of all black people and not think some type of racist and negative BS. Another Martin Luther King quote. And I just want to quote a few things just to get it across, because white people seem to think that MLK was this like saint and savior for them whenever before he died him and Malcolm X were kind of way over here when they started out, and then before they died they were getting closer and closer to the middle. MLK was becoming more like Malcolm was becoming more like MLK. So they were finding a happy medium. And MLK, frankly, was just sick and tired of the passiveness and the peacefulness that he kept on trying and trying, knowing that no results came from that. The majority of white Americans consider themselves sincerely committed to justice for the Negro. They believe that American society is essentially hospitable to fair play and to steady growth toward a middle-class utopia embodying racial harmony. But unfortunately, this is a fantasy of self-deception and comfortable vanity. Many white Americans of goodwill have never connected bigotry with economic exploitation. They have deplored prejudice but tolerated or ignored economic injustice. Hence, when white people mention, oh, we all have the same chances, all you have to do is go get an education and get a job, as if we have the same jobs available to us as non-white people or as women. Nope. But they swear we're playing victim. Now, white Americans must recognize that justice for black people cannot be achieved without radical changes in the structure of our society. The comfortable, entrenched, the privileged cannot continue to tremble at the prospect of change of the status quo. I think Obama being elected kind of taught us they ain't ready. It is an unhappy truth that racism is a way of life for the vast majority of white Americans, spoken and unspoken, acknowledged and denied, subtle and sometimes not so subtle. For instance, people will talk about black on black crime, not realizing that is racism because white people kill other white people at almost the same exact percentage. That is called intra-racial crime. Not only that, but they will overlook the over 60% of the population of people who are proven innocent after being found guilty and serving time in prison. Over 60% are black men. Now, riots are not the cause of white resistance, they are the consequence of it. And another, there aren't enough white persons in our country who are willing to cherish democratic principles over privilege. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. There are so many white people out there who would rather say I worked hard to get where I've gotten and I didn't grow up with this, that, and the other, so stop making excuses. Then there are people who are willing to actually do the research and see they are not excuses, but they are justifications as to why the majority of black and brown people are still in poverty because they have been kept that way intentionally by the system. The Western arrogance of feeling that it has everything to teach others and nothing to learn from them is not just. Americans seem to think that this is the greatest country and we know everything, even without doing the research ourselves. And that is why we will claim we know this, that, and the other, even though our education system and the numbers will prove that we have been at a steady and fast decline mentally, socially, economically. But whatever. There will always be those people who say, but at least you're not here or there, and they will find somewhere that they think is worse just to deny the fact that America is only the best when it comes to police brutality and prison numbers, population. Now, whites, it must frankly be said, are not putting in a similar mass effort to re-educate themselves out of their racial ignorance. It is an aspect of their sense of superiority that the white people of America believe they have so little to learn, the reality of substantial investment to assist Negroes into the 20th century, adjusting the Negro neighbors, and genuine school integration is still a nightmare for all too many white Americans. Again, I mention regularly, schools that are in black and brown and mixed neighborhoods are more racially segregated today than they were during Jim Crow. And private schools became a thing once integration happened because white people did not want their children around us, and therefore they give us horrible education so that our children never think for themselves or learn the ways of the world here in America. And only a very slim pickings will actually make it out of this hood so they can continue to claim that black people are lazy and stupid. I think that is enough, even though there's several more that will overturn that I have a dream that one day my children will be judged by the content of their character instead of the color of their skin. Considering the fact that that is the one line that they usually use. I will also mention my favorite, very short-lived revolutionary of the 60s, Fred Hampton. Now, Fred Hampton was a member of the Black Panther Party. He was one of the very youngest, he was the youngest chairman of a Black Panther Party chapter, the Black Panther Protection Party, for those of you who are unaware. His idea was to get the poor whites together, the brown, the yellow, the black, and stand up against the system that kept them down and pitted them against each other. So instead of this peaceful harmony that white people claim is for the best, can't we all just have peace and get along? Rodney King type shit after they whoop your ass. What happened was I guess this was one of the first no-knock warrants. They heard there were guns and ammo being stored in the place where he was sleeping with his 9-month pregnant girlfriend at the time at 21 years old. And they claimed that the Black Panthers shot at them. But after all the evidence was seen, one bullet was sent out and hundreds were sent in. And the one bullet that was sent out was shot by someone that opened the door, that they shot in the throat as soon as he opened the door. They claimed his death was just cause. Like, he was sleeping, and then they shot him, and then when they realized he wasn't dead, they shot him in the head and said, that nigger's dead now. But they say that it was justified, even though the family filed a lawsuit in 1970, and in 1982, a dozen years later, they were given almost $2 million for his murder. It was a murder. It was an assassination by the police and the FBI. And this is not anything new, and it's nothing that has stopped if you actually take a look at a lot of the younger revolutionaries of today who are being found with bullets in their heads sitting in their cars. So, no. Story of, well, the bright lining is that no, white people will not be satisfied with people like me being nicer, because they have a superiority complex and a God complex, and they think they can do no wrong while overlooking the wrong done and blaming it on other people or blaming it on their victims. So that is why I will never be nice and sweet when it comes to the virus on Earth, which is Europeans.